we're back. So obviously, you see the character on the screen. Pretty self-explanatory at this point, who the video is going to be about. But I don't play the character, so I brought on a friend. Ikushisu, or Iku for short. Obviously, he played Ram in the past, from what I remember. And I think he tried Elfelt as well, and now he's on A.B.A. The only one I can think that we have in NA playing at this high of a level, so brought him on to ask some questions, get a little more familiar with the character. So yeah, I guess the first thing I'll ask is, obviously she didn't get any specific changes to her, but she did get affected by system mechanics like everyone else. Do you believe she is better this patch, or maybe worse, with obviously the changes to hard knockdown, wall assault, and burst, and DPRC, and all that?
So to start off with, not hard knockdown with wild assault, I think that it benefits her that she can no longer knock down, because it kind of forces you now to you don't have to think as much in terms of if you want the knockdown for Oki or if you just want to go for meter.
Yep.
And I think that removing the hard knockdown makes it so essentially you just want to route for wall break, but you want to route to where you can gain as much meter as possible, right?
Yeah.
In terms of DPRC, I think it benefits her in the sense that if she's in jealousy mode, if somebody were to DPRC, it definitely reduces the amount of time that she actually has in jealousy mode. It isn't a big it wasn't ever like a big issue, but I think that just helps her a bit more, seeing that she's able to just get hit with DP and then just keep running how she would. Also, she had Donai, so I mean,
she wasn't too worried about DPs.
Yeah, exactly. So I think overall she pretty much benefits. I don't see many downsides personally. I think it just instates just more of opting for meter over anything else, really.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, one thing with me is I thought, from someone who doesn't play A.B.A, I always thought she was better this patch, because obviously she's a offensive character, wants to get, started, and it seems like most of the time A.B.A players go into the key grab on wall stick, so it never seemed like you're really using the blue. I mean, of course there were like times, but it seemed more often than not you were just saving the meter and going into jealousy like with the key grab on wall stick, and then obviously her neutral just becomes so good that it didn't really matter who you were fighting. You kind of just like got in and did something. So yeah, 100%. I guess we can break this down into two parts, because there is we'll first start off with regular mode A.B.A, and then we'll go into jealousy. Talk to me about regular mode and what are the strengths, and any specific part that you want to tackle first. I guess the easiest part would be her movement and how she plays the game without the jealousy rage.
Yes, I think when it comes to movement, there are definitely pluses, because you can, if you are to press any button, I can just hold dash and block. So that's definitely a plus. The downside is definitely her move speed.
Yeah.
It's hard to enact sort of anything, really. You're kind of forced to just throw out 5k, 2k, 5h occasionally into hard knockdown or key grab if you're close enough.
Yeah. And
overall, like, you definitely have to think just like a little bit more in terms of how you want to play, because you can play aggressive, but in normal mode, I don't think her pressure is all that great.
Yeah, I agree.
So you kind of just want to, how I see it is aim for jealousy meter, and just sort of back off and wait for the moment to switch to jealousy mode.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to pressure, you can pretty much, if you FD a lot of that, then it'll prevent her from doing a lot of follow-ups. Not that most people will follow through with 2H in the key grab, but there are instances where people will autopilot and then it'll end up just pushing them out, and now you're back at square one. So I think getting as much meter as possible while you can, while you're pressuring, that is best for her, I think.
Okay. And you know, so obviously on release, A.B.A, the moment she dropped was, oh, this character's dog shit, right? This character's unplayable.
Yes.
You know, there was a lot of weird thoughts about the character, but obviously we're here now, and she's obviously been found out, and she's obviously stable. I mean, obviously Gobo coming off winning the Arc Revo event. So talk to me about, and I think the move people hate the most is the low crush, whatever. Yes, okay. The hop. So talk to me a little about this move and why so many people hate this move.
So to start, one, it's relatively safe if I don't press anything at a distance. I mean, I'm spaced enough to where I can block, or even if I want to challenge, if it tap your toes, of course, we know how moves are when they tap your toes. You're plus by +1 or 2.
Yep.
Up close, you have the RPS of me mashing my 4-framer, because who wouldn't? Off a -2.
Yeah.
But it's one of those moves where it also forces a lot of situations.
Yep.
It can, I mean, like I said, I can mash, I can run up throw, or I can go into an overhead, or I can even go down.
Yep.
And if you block the overhead, I can even go into a fuzzy.
Mm-hmm.
And one other thing is that it's a good movement tool. Especially with meter, I can sort of lunge myself and key grab to make a full screen key grab. And if somebody preemptively throws a low button, then of course that's gonna beat that, and now I'm in jealousy mode. So I think the hate just comes around just sort of like every sort of property of it and what she can actually do with it. Of course, now people are sort of starting to actually lab the situations after I hop, but there's still a lot to think about, even than just, oh, we clash 1-2P together and then I throw or whatever, right?
No, the move, I mean, there's a clip out there of me getting like TOD'd round start off, you know, I get hit by I pressed 2S round start, I got hopped, wall break, 50-50, you know, not fun. But this is back when hard knockdown, Wild Assault. I know the reward on hit isn't huge, but the counter hit reward is pretty big. When filling up, I guess we could talk about filling up the meter after. Go ahead.
One thing is that what's funny about the hop is that if it hits and I transform, I'm plus.
Oh,
like, not by much. Most A.B.As don't do it, but if it hits and then I transform, I'm plus, and I can just start my offense even more. Yeah, it's not common knowledge because most people don't really even do it. But
it's a thing.
It is a thing, yeah.
Okay. And I guess the next move would be the parry, and I think this is probably the move you see the second most, or not. I guess you see all of her moves so much because she's just spamming special moves. But I mean, one of the notable moves, of course, is her parry. Obviously, it parries, I believe, everything in the game. Yes. But if it works, it gives her jealousy meter. Talk to me about how good this parry is. I know it's not frame 1, but I've seen it used on defense before. Talk to me about how good do you think it is.
So I'll just state the obvious. Against somebody like Asuka, it's very beneficial because I mean he's throwing cubes from a range. But also it negates a lot of the damage that she actually receives. There are specific pressure and gaps within characters' pressure, like Johnny, for example. There are instances on Wake Up that I can just, if he throws card and then does misfire, I can, depending on what or how late it's thrown out or the specifics of it, I'm able to wake up parry, and that stops the guard crush. So it is a very beneficial move in that sense. But a lot of the time it's also kind of a hard call out, because if you round start one round with 2S, I parry, and then the next round I'm kind of just guessing, are you gonna do it again? Are you gonna back off? Are you gonna? So it's high risk, high reward to some degree, but at the same time, it's like if I parry, I'm kind of just giving up partially my turn if you just press one move and then you run up instead of doing a full conversion as you normally would.
Yeah. Okay. And obviously the next move would be the dash. So in replace of having a normal movement, she has a dash that I believe beats all, was it mids or is it low? Yeah, beats all mids but loses to lows, correct?
Loses to lows, yes.
Okay. Talk to me about the use for this and how good do you think it is?
In normal mode, it's not bad. It is a pretty good round start option because I'm able to go straight into a throw, into transform. I'm able to do a combo with close slash. Then again, it's one of those things where it's like, it's also kind of a hard predict, where I kind of have to preemptively choose to do it and then willingly hope that you end up throwing a move that I can end up going under. But it's not necessarily a bad move, because there's a lot of reward that it gains.
Just very character specific.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, 100%. Jealousy is definitely a lot better because of just how fast it is. So you can even in pressure, you're able, if you block close slash and I do dash, it's kind of hard to react to. So it's a good pressure tool for strike throw. Range is a good thing, and I think that's really what is highlighted about it, is that it just goes under a whole bunch of things that it probably shouldn't, but it does. Yeah, that's all I think about it.
Okay. And I believe last is the key grab. So this is the move. Obviously it's pretty weak versus FD, obviously. But on hit, it's a game changer, obviously. It is plus on block, it does guard crush, which again, it is weak to FD, which is the trade-off. Would you agree this is kind of like the central of her kit? I mean, I think this is
right. 100%.
Yeah. 100%. One thing that surprised me when we first saw this move is that it actually combos from P normals, which I was not expecting it to. When I saw it in the trailer, I was like, oh, there's no way. No shot. And then I went to Arc World Tour where they had the playtest, and I was like, okay, there's no way. I don't even need to lab this. There's no way. And then it worked, and I was like, oh, okay, sure. I mean, this move is pretty self-explanatory. If you want to talk about it a bit, then for sure go ahead. But, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious what it does.
It is pretty self-explanatory. I will say that there are some niche uses that I haven't really seen yet in terms of it, but for example, if I make sure you block. If I do that, I think since it pushes you forward, it guard crushes, and a lot of people are in turn scared of pressing because it's +2, and all I have to really do is throw out 5k or 2p in order to beat your button. I think that people should start implementing BRC overhead after it, especially since one of her JS is a 7-framer. So if I don't fuck this up, whatever, you get the idea. Her her JS is a 7 framer, so you can instant overhead with it, and it is hard to do it after key grab. It'll hit like just the end of it, but it's still the JS would reach further than JP, and it forces them to look out for that, because typically people aren't pressing buttons anyway, because why you're not going to press on guard crush +2. But other than that, it's pretty, like you said, it's pretty self-explanatory. There's not much going on for it other than grab and either throw Oki or drag throw, whatever.
Okay. And how, I guess this is, I'm not sure if you know the exact number, but once you land the key grab, obviously if you're in the corner, it's like, yo, you gotta block, bro. But, you know, if it's mid-screen, is there some, I'm not sure how plus she is. I know obviously she turns in the lightning speed, but what does the situation look like on hit?
On hit? Realistically, it just kind of run up. And Donai overhead. You can go for the safe route of just pressing 2D, because at a range it'll whiff on DP. So then you can just punish that. Other than that, you kind of have to spend meter 4. And I don't think. I don't think it's the pressure after key grab hitting is not too bad to the point where like you need to use meter. It's good enough to where you have enough options, whether it be at a distance or up close, to where that the key grab hitting is beneficial in just about any way possible.
Got you. And you know, I guess to wrap it all up with normal mode A.B.A. So obviously, one thing that surprised me as well. 2 things, like I said, excluding the key grab comboing from P normals. Her 5H is, you know, when I first saw this character, I was like, wait, isn't she supposed to have like, you know, short normals in this mode? I was a little confused when I saw the 5H. The 5H, from someone who doesn't play A.B.A, it seems like a really good button. Situationally, obviously, I believe it's a little slower, but the trade-off is the range. And then the next thing would be the far slash. So it's not a far-reaching far slash, but it is 10 frames, which is something that I was not expecting her to have. I did not think she would have a 10-frame far slash.
10 frames plus advancing.
Yeah, plus advancing, which on a character that's supposed to be pretty bad in normal mode, I was like, what? That is, you know, obviously you're not going to be using a neutral like that, but it's more of a round start situation. Obviously, the round start versus her isn't as scary, unless you're pressing. Right? If you're challenging her, it's scary. But most of the time you can just back off due to her movement. To include it as well, like you said, her movement, her forward dash and her forward walk and back walk speed are obviously very bad. And to top it all off, I believe she has the worst backdash when she's not in jealousy mode. So I guess I'll ask you this. Overall, how good is A.B.A in normal mode? Like, are there some matchups where you feel like, or are there some situations of matchups where you feel like, oh my gosh, I can't play the game unless I'm in jealousy? Or is it more like she's too good in this mode compared to like how like godlike she is in jealousy? Like, what do you think?
So I was thinking about this earlier. Okay, so like I have like a personal and then just like a general thought about it. So like my personal thought about it, and this kind of revolves around matchup chart and whatever.
Yeah.
Tier list, whatever. For me, I don't think that there is, especially when I'm in normal mode for a good amount of a game, I don't think that a matchup is unwinnable. Now, of course, it would definitely be rough if I like just couldn't do jealousy mode. But like the time that I'm in normal mode, for me, there are things that I will try to implement or do within a matchup to make it something that I'm like, okay, I can play this, I can work around it just in normal mode until I get into jealousy. But I think the general consensus is that it's her buttons and her moves just aren't viable in some matchups.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, I would genuinely say that she is probably like just normal mode. It is probably like compared to some of the rest of the cast, like it's definitely on like the relatively like middle, lower-ish end, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
But like personally, I think that I think some of her buttons like are really good in this mode. Like 5H,
5K,
I think
2W.
yeah, 5K, 2K, 2P. I think her JS is a little underrated in terms of what it can do. I genuinely think that her worst button is probably Far Slash, but it still has its plus sides that make playing this mode bearable.
Yeah.
So I would say like relatively like middle-ish of the coop, I'd say.
Okay. But I guess the main question, what I was looking for is, do you think it's balanced enough to reflect off her jealousy mode? So, like, obviously when she goes into jealousy, she turns insane, right? I don't think anyone will argue that she's a bad character in jealousy mode. I think everyone believes she's like the broken, some would say, right, in jealousy. But I'm asking, do you think that her normal mode it should be stronger? Like, it's too bad it needs to be stronger? Do you think it needs to be weaker, that jealousy is so good that the normal mode needs to be toned down? Or do you think it's just in the right place?
I think she's just in the right place in normal mode.
Okay.
I think that everything that she has in normal mode sort of complements, like each button complements another button in normal mode well enough to where she is in a good spot. I would personally say that they need to tone down jealousy just a little bit, but
and we'll get into that right now. So, I guess this is why people, hate her. I'm sure there's things in normal that like people get mad about, right? They get beat out by the 4-framer after the hop. Their button gets low crushed. She goes through their button, she throws them, or something bad, unfortunate just happens, right? And you get oop-de-doop by this character. But jealousy. Okay, so I guess the first thing we'll talk about outside of the specials are the normals. So obviously, the Far Slash turns into a 9-framer, which is which is really good. Obviously, there's only a few 9-framers in this game. If you can think of Viken, Johnny, Milia, and that is it, I believe. Unless I'm missing someone. But yeah, those three come off the top of my head. And then obviously she then gets access to the 9-framer. And then I don't know the frame down on 5H, but it does lose some range in exchange for speed.
yes.
And then 2S becomes the god button, this shit, right? Yeah, 2S obviously changes. 6H obviously changes by animation. 2D becomes way better than... Yeah, 2D becomes good. I believe her K normal stay the same.
Yeah.
K normal stay the same. P normal stay the same. 6P stays the same, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything stays the same. Every P and K normal stays the same, but her slash and heavy normals change. And then obviously the special moves change as well. So I guess the first one we can start off with is... I guess we just jump into the hop. Okay, so this move is a move. It's definitely a move. The low crush on it becomes... it goes over, like, Far Slashes. It goes over, like... Or maybe not Zanos, but...
It goes over a lot. It goes over Nago. It goes over...
Beak Driver. I've seen it go over Beak Driver. I've seen it go over Misfinder. I've seen it go over, these big, these big special moves. It just goes over. Even excluding that, it changes from a mid to a overhead. And I believe instead of -1, it becomes -2. Talk to me about how good this move is. Obviously, it's her main mix-up tool, and I'm sure you have some thoughts on it.
It's probably the best. Probably the best you can get. forces high low, of course, after even just like a close flash, because you can either do that or 2H. On hit, it's not on hit. You get a full combo.
Yeah.
Wall break. It's one of those things that really like all you have to look out for is the other person reacting to it, because then that's when you change up your game plan. But otherwise, you can just kind of brainlessly go into it. If you block it, if I have meter, I'm able to fast RC into fuzzy, or I can do what you do with the other one and just go fast RC low.
Yeah.
There are some niche things like Tigerning it just to stop momentum so you can't throw, but that is very it's not the greatest to do, I don't think. Like, I don't think it's really worth your time to try bother Tigerning it. It is helpful, but I don't think it is something that like you need to do, because you can honestly just go for other options.
So you can TK it.
You can. Essentially, all it'll do is just stop your momentum, and instead of going face first into you, if I'm running in at a distance, and so that's without it. But if I'm to do it from that distance with it, then now you're out of range, and then you're gonna get punished heavily for it.
Okay.
It's definitely just like a move of all time, you know?
Yeah, it's one of those. It
can't go wrong with it.
Yeah. So when you TK it, it becomes not throw punishable.
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. And I guess one thing we forgot to point out. So obviously we're talking about her movement, the back walk, the forward walk, the run speed, the back dash. Obviously in Jealousy she becomes like a monster, right? She becomes, I believe she's as fast as Chip.
If not faster.
Yeah, and then obviously she goes from like the worst backdash in the game to probably the best, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I know A.B.A players blocking is not an option with Jealousy. That's one. Yeah. Movement becomes insane. I believe she gets like the G. I'm not sure if it's fast as Geo, but her front walk speed becomes insane. The back walk. Oh no, that's still really fast. Holy shit. Yeah.
No, it's really fast.
Yeah. So movement insane. Talk to me about how with her toolkit, like the normals and the speed, how good just the speed in general, how good is it for her in Jealousy?
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's kind of pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
I mean, with the speed, I mean, if you want to remotely try to press a button, I mean, or backdash because you think I'm gonna far slash, I mean, I just gotta run head on. Having this kind of movement is just really nice to close quarters, especially just dash blocking. Like if somebody against like Asuka, like just dash blocking with this speed, is I would say it's on par to Leo's dash blocking. It's really good. It's really good. It is something that I should probably do more, but I don't.
Gotcha.
But the speed allows for, I think, a lot of things that some interactions that probably shouldn't happen. Because of how fast you are. So me running in your face or just running up to a distance where I can just like comfortably throw 5H and then it beats your 6P or whatever you throw out, it's just like, okay.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. One thing I just remember we completely forgot about was the Rekka. So yeah. So okay. Talk to me about. I'm not sure if this move changes in Jealousy to. Maybe it goes farther, but I'm not sure if the frame data changes. But I mean, this move is. I believe again it's pretty self-explanatory. It's just a hit confirm. Also gives back Jealousy on hit. Yeah, there you go.
Second hit.
A lot. And I believe one thing people may not know, maybe at the lower level as well, is the second hit is actually a low. Something I didn't actually know when I first fought the character. But yeah, I'm not sure if there's any other changes from that move to Jealousy, but I guess we can talk about this. Is there some sort of mix-up used to it, maybe, with the second hit being a low? I know a lot of A.B.A players in Jealousy do the first hit, and then they'll go straight into the overhead. So talk to me about that a bit.
So the only thing that changes is on block. Instead of it being in normal mode, it's -5, and then Jealousy it just becomes -2. So it being -2 really helps force a lot of situations, like you said, the overhead. But there's not much to it other than just going for it, and then I either have to delay if I think you're gonna mash. Just delay the second hit, or I just use the first hit and just don't do anything. Especially in Jealousy, because it's -2. It's even better. It's even better. But and it being the second hit being -15, if they don't mash and they don't get hit, then I'm forced to use meter. So it's not very, especially when if you're blocking in normal mode, then my options aren't great. Even in Jealousy is definitely better because of the overhead and 2H, but regardless, I'm still spending meter, so it's not ideal. So your option is just noticing if they do mash on it or not. Otherwise, your best bet is just to throw out the first one and just sit.
Yeah, of course.
Just play that kind of mind game.
Yeah. I guess going back again, one thing we forgot to talk about is so obviously we're talking about Jealousy Rage right now, but there is the meter, obviously the meter. So we talked about how the key grab obviously flips the mode, so you go from normal mode to Jealousy on hit. But one thing I think we forgot to mention is how you even get the meter outside of the key grab. Every move, correct me if I'm wrong, every special move on block gives Jealousy, but it gives even more on hit, or is it the same values on block and hit?
I believe it is on block. It is the same.
Okay, and
Oh no, sorry, I lied. It's you get more on hit, and then half of what it would be on hit on block.
Got you. Okay, and also, correct me if I'm wrong, normals also fill this up.
Yeah, like 5H, you'll get, I believe it's what, 5%. It's all a small increment, but it definitely adds up. It definitely adds up.
Do you believe that? Okay. Do you believe this is too much, or is it like she needs it, like it's essential? Maybe not. Okay. I guess for the special moves, like, you should be getting it back on specials. Do you think maybe you get too much back on special moves, or do you think maybe you get too much for normals on block, or do you think overall, like, it needs to be toned down, or do you think it's something like it's just right, it's fair, but, you know, I can see why some people may not like it?
I think that maybe they could reduce it a little bit on like the Rekka. I think that they could reduce it. I think key grab for how much you get. It's key grab. It's your essential. Yeah. I think that's fine. But like the Rekka, I think they could tone it down, especially on like half of what you get on block is still pretty good for what it is.
Yeah.
I think that normals, I think like you said, I think it's one of those things that's pretty essential.
I'm gonna give a lot. Holy shit.
Yeah, that's holy shit. When it comes to the normals, I think that because you're not. The only thing about it is that there's not much like going on in terms of like what you're doing pressure wise. So no. I think that what you gain off of doing just even a simple string like that is pretty fair to have for her.
For sure. And again, before we hop back into more Jealousy stuff, I guess this kind of does tie into Jealousy, but one of the biggest complaints about the character is the refund you get when you go from jealousy and then out of jealousy. So it goes down, you see the bar, and then you go out of it, and then you get more meter, which is...
Yeah.
Okay, so this is heavily... I'm not sure if you've heard the noise about this, but it's pretty complained about. What are your thoughts on this?
To be honest, I mean, I genuinely think that she needs it.
Okay.
Because there are things that you can do in order to prevent this.
Yeah.
And if you recognize those things, then it shouldn't be one of those things that you're really complaining about, because if I'm running low, of course I'm going to be thinking, oh, I'm about to run out. I'm going to change back in order to get some meter back.
Yep.
I mean, you can burst, you can YRC, you can contest. Like, it just depends, but I think that having it get refunded is just a good way for people to actually sort of acknowledge it, while also helping out the A.B.A player.
Yeah, of course. And I guess, like, one of the situations I was imagining in my head, especially from someone that's played you a bunch, like, let's say you hit me with the Rekka into the low, right? So I get hit, and then you go into jealousy, and, like, we're playing neutral a bit, and then you, like, see the opportunity's not there, you go out of it, and then, like, you know, you're just like, whoa, like, yo, like, she's back in it? Like, I just played the game, like, you know, I survived the seconds of her being in jealousy, and then she just, you know, goes back into it, like, with, like, more meter, like, you know? But I definitely, I see what you're talking about. Yeah. But tying back into jealousy, so, obviously we talked about the Rekka, we talked about the overhead.
Oh, one thing I forgot to say about the Rekka is that it is not in normal mode, but in jealousy mode. I forgot to mention that forcing with super, it's probably one of the best. Also, another thing.
We'll talk about the super later. We'll talk about the super later. Don't worry. I didn't forget about her supers. Don't worry. But yeah. I guess the next move. So obviously she loses the parry when she goes into jealousy. It's no longer a move, but she does have the dash, which you did mention earlier has some good mix-up use to it. Strike throw use to it. Does the invul change at all, or is it just distance, or?
It's just distance and speed, I'm pretty sure. It's definitely a lot faster. Yeah, for the most part, it is just about the same.
Okay, so pretty much the same.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, the key grab, it stays the same, again, the central part of her kit. I don't believe it just takes her out of the mode. But you still get the meter. Yeah.
Refunds, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I believe that's all of our special moves. We talked about the speed, the normals. Dude, Donai. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, this. So talk to me about this.
At first, I mean, of course, it just seems like probably best button in the game she has.
Yeah.
But there are definitely flaws when it comes to it, like FDing, especially ID FDing. It is definitely also a good move to force RC into high-low.
Yeah.
But people have definitely now figured out what to do against it, especially if I use it on wake up, like jumping, for example. And that just negates a lot of what I can do. It's still a good move. Don't get me wrong, but I'm starting to see like less and a little bit less use for it than when I normally would. Comparing it to launch, I would use it a lot less now than then.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this move caught me by surprise as well. So obviously I don't play a character that has a reversal, so I don't really. You don't have to really spend the meter trying to the time that you're in jealousy to try to, you know, force me to not do a reversal. Obviously it's probably her best combo tool, if you would agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
But on block, so you did mention it is weak to FD. One
Yes.
thing, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the move is only +4, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Which is not what I was expecting when I saw this move. Oh, I thought it was going to be like Gold, Lewis, we're talking like double digits. But it is, would you agree that it's not really a pressure or frame trap tool, it's more of a, like, conditioning tool versus reversal characters?
I think so, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that is all of her special moves, but obviously there is let me ask you this before we jump into the supers, because there's a lot. She has a lot. Let me ask you, what are some things that it could either be from normal, it could be multiple things. I'm not just asking one. Anything you can think of that things that are misunderstood about A.B.A. Maybe some people you hear go, well, she just does this and this. It's like, yo, it's not that. Like, she actually can't just do that and that. Or, you know, this is broken. Well, you know, there's an option to this. Like, it could be in form of advice that you would wish for more players to do when you fight them. Maybe in tower you get away with something that you just shouldn't. Or maybe some sort of counterplay that, you know, not many people, again, you just said that, like we said at the start of the video, people are now starting to find some answers to her moves. Yeah. So anything else that you can think of, whether it's counterplay again, advice, or you know, stuff you get away with, anything along those lines that you would want to talk about.
So I'll say two things. One regarding the character. I think in terms of A.B.A. being misunderstood, I think that a lot of players don't understand how slow she has to play in normal mode. I think that a lot of people will try to force their way in, which, I mean, it isn't a bad idea seeing how good Jealousy is, but I think just playing at a slower pace is very beneficial for A.B.A, especially in normal mode, because her pressure isn't great. So I think that playing slow and prioritizing Jealousy meter is probably your best options before anything else in terms of the character. Gotcha. Now, in terms of counterplay, I understand why people just like flee when they see Jealousy and they just sort of run around the map, but I think that people should maybe consider throwing out a couple of long range buttons. Not necessarily always, because, I mean, she does have her command dash, and that'll tear right through whatever far range button you have, but I think that would be more beneficial to slowing her down than just running around the map, because realistically, I can just, if I see you running, then I'm not going to bother engaging, and I'm just going to replenish my meter and just wait.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I think just being active when she's in Jealousy mode. I think that people just are being too passive about Jealousy mode.
Okay. Too scared.
Yeah, they're too scared, and I think that it would just benefit a lot of people to actually play a little more aggro when they see possible.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm glad that you actually said this, because I've thought about, like, you know, obviously with Asuka it's different because I have tools, but when playing Zato into this matchup, it's like when Eddie dies, there's like, okay, well, I'm just a character now, right? So what should I do? But I don't want to run. You can't fly on her, right? Because obviously at normal she has that, and then I don't even need to talk about the God button, right? But the goal is that I wanted to start doing is, you know, not being as scared, right? The only issue is that, and I think this is actually one thing we forgot to mention, is from normal mode to Jealousy, I believe her jump changes, right? Oh no, is it her forward momentum on her jump then? Oh, okay, maybe I'm tripping. But she's seen her air buttons become a lot better.
Yes.
And a lot of them are hard to 6P as well, and being wrong on that 6P feels horrible. It feels horrible. Like, horrible. You get hit, counter hit, and then, like, close slash, Donai, whatever, you're through the wall, you just lost, like, depending on the character you play, you just lost, like, all your HP. But I do agree. I do think, like, the only thing you can do is really take a chance. So I understand where you're coming from. Yeah. Oh, good.
There are specific moves for characters that definitely like help prevent her from doing dash.
Yep.
So just like utilizing those specifically, I don't know. Does Zato far slash go? Do I go under? Okay, partially. But like
it's pretty active. It's a pretty active far slash. Oh. Me when I yeah.
Yeah, it's just a timing thing. But like
yeah.
Is it 5H or 6H? Whatever the low one is, that is a very good button to use against her. But
low.
On Kai? It doesn't on Kai. It doesn't hit low, but it hits lower. It's 5H or 6H. I don't remember which.
6H is low active, but the 5H is higher active, I believe. It's like the one where he like spins around almost. I believe that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But of course, like you said, it's just taking a chance.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely risky, but I think that if you get the hit, then it definitely pays off more than you would think.
Okay. And I guess we can talk about before we, let's talk about our supers. So obviously the normal mode reversal super is this. I believe it hits behind as well.
It does, yes.
Yeah, it hits behind her as well. But I believe it's not a 9 frame reversal. I think it's 11, right? Am I wrong?
Let me double check. I know it's lower. It's 10.
10. Okay, so it's 10. Good, obviously, on hit as well, you do get a whole chunk of jealousy meter back. And not only that, you go into jealousy. Do you believe that this is one of the better supers in the game, or...
No, I don't think so. No.
Okay.
It's definitely good for her, but I think as a reversal, I don't think it. Because if you block it, even if okay, no, I do go into it. Jealousy. Never mind. I corrected myself.
Alright, we go back.
I guess it depends on when I. Okay, it looks like when I cancel it. Yeah. Okay. But there's such a big gap that it's like.
Yeah, there is a throw. It's throwable, I believe, right?
Look. I believe so. Yeah. But most people will just end up pressing a button anyway, or they'll honestly just hold. But it's on the slower end, so.
Yeah.
I think overall it could be a little better, but I mean, for what she has, I don't think it's not for what she has in retrospect. It's okay. It's not the greatest, but I can't complain. Yeah,
good utility super. Okay, and then obviously this shit.
Yeah.
Okay, so a lot of people. I will say this one thing. You know what? Before I speak, why don't you tell me about the differences from normal to jealousy during the super, and just in general what the super is used for, how good do you think it is, and what it does?
So the differences to start, I mean, you have one sort of guy come up in normal, and then you have multiple. So one that's a change in frame data there. That's +6 versus +49. It forces. It's nice because it forces a lot in jealousy, because I'm able to run up and honestly do whatever I feel like to. Close slash, 2H, overhead, anything that you can think of. I think that depending on the situation, where you are in wall break, and if you're in jealousy mode or not, it is a good knockdown tool. Because you don't want to cash out with the other super if you're in jealousy. Yeah. But you also just have to take into account how much jealousy you actually have left, and if that's even worth it, right? And one other thing about it is that it's an amazing pressure tool.
Yeah.
You can Kara after Rekka, so forcing it. Also on whiff, you can just sort of let it rip. So just throwing Rekka out into that is very good. I think 100 meter, that's the best super in the game.
Gotcha.
100 meter best. I mean, it just forces. You can, because if I have 100 meter and I just do this, I can go. I mean, I can go overhead into overhead.
Yeah.
If you jump it, then I'm faking you out if I'm gonna go under.
Yeah.
It just 100 meter just forces a lot with the super, which is very, very dumb.
Yeah. And I do believe one piece of counterplay for it is you can jump it, which most people don't know. So I know the frame data changes heavily, so I'll mash after the. So I'll go. I guess I'll go back full screen. So I'll jump and I'll mash. Right. So I get my mash. It comes out. But if I just block on the ground, yeah, like that. Right. You don't get a button off. It just jails.
Yeah.
So yeah, like you said, very good super. And then obviously the reversal super when you are in jealousy changes from when you're not. And you get the cool animation. And I believe it does more damage based on how many bars or how much jealousy you have, correct?
Yes.
So if you were to get max jealousy, so. Oh, I blocked. Yep.
Yeah. Each sort of tick that it has, it increases. So of course, the more the better. Very good to.
Very
Very
good.
good to catch out.
The speed doesn't change, does it?
No.
Okay, so still a 10 framer. But this is, you don't, unironically, you actually don't see the super that much, I would say. Or, you do, but you don't. Because most of the time, you don't want to just cash out, and you kind of want to, obviously, hold on to your jealousy. So pretty self-explanatory super, just more stuff you have, more damage it does. I don't think there's anything else really that cool with it. Kind of a super. One of the things, though, outside of, I guess even in jealousy, that, like, kind of just A.B.A in general, that I wanted to ask you, do you believe that A.B.A is, she is the most rewarded character from defense? Do you think that statement is true or false?
She's the most.
Like, she gets the most reward for being right on defense.
100%. 100%.
Okay.
Okay. A lot of her, a lot of her being right on defense just kind of sets her up in her win con, especially at a pretty good position in terms of jealousy meter because of how much Rekka gives or key grab.
Mm-hmm.
It sets you up really well.
Yeah. And let me, this is the funny question. So, I'm gonna ask. So, obviously, A.B.A is one of the most, I think along with Asuka and maybe a few other characters, is like the most varied character on a tier list. From someone who plays the character at the highest level in NA, let me ask you, when looking at a tier list, you have the top tiers, the high tiers, and the characters that can win solo, so like, yeah, that high tierish, and then the rest of the cast, that floating mid-tier, whatever, below those tiers, right, area?
Mm-hmm.
Where would you place A.B.A? And, before you answer this, there was a funny tweet, I haven't done this, but there was a funny tweet that I read the other day that I wanted to share with you, actually.
Okay.
It says, I'll put it on the screen, by FGC Moon. Not only is A.B.A top 5, if played by the right person, she can win anything. Gobo just won an Arc Revo event, a major with her last week, and I feel like we just don't have the strongest representation of her in NA, so we don't pay attention to her. Thoughts? So, with this, I want your opinion from someone who plays A.B.A. Where do you see her?
You know, I genuinely think about this a lot because there are a couple of people have like you said, it's very varied. And And I just sort of ask myself all the time, like, where do I like it? I'm kind of ever changing it, but I genuinely think that my placement on her that has like pretty much stayed pretty like I've been pretty confident about it is I would at least say top 10.
Top 10?
Either top 10 at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
Where in that top 10, I think that it it is heavily varied, but I think top 10 nonetheless. I feel like the way her buttons in Jealousy are very very good to where she doesn't have to worry about much
Yeah.
relatively. And it's just a matter of I think it all comes down to how you play the character in both Jealousy and in normal mode. I
Yeah.
think if you're too reckless with in Jealousy, then it's not going to work out. If you're too reckless in normal mode, it's not going to work. Like there has to be a balance. But
Yeah.
I think if you find that balance, then she is easily top 10.
Gotcha.
Easily.
Gotcha. Okay. And reflecting off this, what are off the top of your head from the matchups you've played, especially like this patch, what are some matchups that, or maybe some things that characters do well that give A.B.A trouble? Whether it's maybe longer range pokes or, good keep out tools, or, what are some things that characters have that beat her that it's just like, yeah, she really does struggle with this, or,
Um,
or is there nothing? Or does she just adapt well to everything?
I think there are some things, but I think that her tools can help her overcome it pretty easily. Okay. Like you said, I mean, far range pokes are one, but I mean, depending on what type of poke it is, I mean,
Yeah.
I have parry, I
Yeah.
have command dash. Zoning, I think, is one of the ones that she struggles most with.
Mm-hmm.
What's a good example? Like,
Asuka?
I face GCO. Asuka. Honestly, I don't think Asuka's that bad. I really don't, because the reason being for that, just a quick little spiel on that, is that she can just parry, like, depending on if you're playing out range or whatever, she can parry a good amount of cubes, so she can negate a lot of the damage, and then if I guess right once on defense, then I mean your defense options aren't great, so I might just win right then and there.
Yeah, of course.
But like Bedman, I haven't fought many. I fought GC Yoshi Bedman quite a bit on A.B.A.
Yeah.
And whenever he zones me, it is hard to because Bedman's fireball is pretty good against A.B.A. I should specify. I don't know how good it is like in general, but against A.B.A. with how fast it is and him getting the empowered version, it is hard for me to keep a pace of the game where I can move in and actually make something happen.
Okay. What do you think is her worst matchup out of just
worst
curious?
Matchup?
Worst matchup, and is it anything worse than a 4-6 in your opinion, or like a
worse than a 4-6? No.
Okay.
I think every matchup, even if it were a 4-6, is winnable 100%.
Gotcha.
From experience, I would like to say, I genuinely would like to just say Bedman. I think that his moveset is just it's a little much for A.B.A. to maintain and deal with. Okay. Because it all comes to play with, I mean, because like I said, Fireball, the empowered version of his abilities, and then delaying. Him delaying it throws you off, because if I think you're gonna Fireball and I parry and you just delay it, well, you still have Fireball, and now I gotta preemptively. And his movement in air, it's pretty hard to deal with. So I personally think that Bedman is the one that I've had most trouble with, I'd say.
Okay, for sure. What about, and I guess this is like the second to last question I'll ask you, where would you put A.B.A. on a difficulty list or a scale? So obviously, a lot of the A.B.A. complaint is oh, she's Ugu Gaga, right? Mickey Mouse, easy, no learning, like easy to learn, easy to master. What do you think she is from your personal experience?
Definitely. Hmm. Taking into account both modes at the same time, I would say I would I would say moderate to maybe I would say moderate all the way around.
Yeah.
Um because I think when it comes to normal mode, I think it's just a matter of understanding at what pace you need to play against X or Y matchup.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to jealousy, um there's meter management, combo routing, and just like switching up your options. But I think once you get that down, it's pretty self-explanatory because you kind of get a feel, like especially with the routing stuff, to get wall stick into key grab into change to normal and then key grab. It all kind of just comes when as you like keep doing it and you kind of get a feel as you're playing. So I don't think that she's too easy, but I definitely don't think she's crazy hard. I think anybody can like even just pick her up at a pretty low level and just like play her to a pretty good degree.
For sure. And the last thing I'll ask you, which I ask everyone, if you had to give advice to someone learning A.B.A, maybe it's some advice you wish you knew earlier on when you were learning the character, or maybe something you just picked up that you think is very important. What advice would you give to someone?
As I kind of stated in the other question, just learn the pace of the game, depending on who you're fighting in normal mode. In jealousy mode, don't like force yourself to run at them just because you're in jealousy mode. Like,
Yeah.
I guess that also plays into knowing the pace of the game. Like, just manage your meter to a good extent. Understanding the routing, because there are very like specific routing, because key grab does a lot of wall damage, so you just want to make sure that you kind of have routing down to where you can maximize your meter gain. And then is there one more thing? I would say try to mix up your options. I feel like a lot of the times it's just like pretty default to go to like close slash overhead or close slash 2H in jealousy mode. So I think it's just important to sort of just like mix up. If you're like do close slash delay 2K or something like that, just like don't autopilot into the overhead, because at some point it'll become telegraphed. So you just want to be able to mix your options and make it so you have that availability to do something else, and that'll keep your enemy on your toes. So
For sure. Yeah, and I believe that is everything. I will put Iku's Twitter, please. You have a Twitter, right? Correct me if I'm
I do,
wrong.
yes.
Yeah, no, you do. I know you do, because I think we follow each other. Okay. I'll put your Twitter on the screen. I will put your... I don't believe you stream.
No, not a very occasional, the very occasional when I'm doing TNS or something, but not often.
Okay, well, I'll put your Twitch on the screen as well. I'll put your Twitter, and I'll put your Discord. In case anyone wants to get in contact with you, ask you questions about A.B.A. I know he'll be willing to reply. So if you have anything to go ask him, whether it's fighting the character or anything, counterplay, whatever, he's your guy. But yeah, no, I believe that is everything. Very interesting character, and I'm very interested to see what she'll get in the next patch. But I guess all we can do now is wait. So yeah, thanks for watching.